I'm Dr. Jordin Wiggins, and this is the Pleasure Principles podcast. Join me on this journey where sex, science, and sensuality meet. Let's change the conversation around sex and pleasure together.
Hello, Superwomen. I was at an event in Toronto last night speaking on a panel of amazing guests. The event was hosted by Nikki Bergen and Lexi Miles. It was called Cocktails and TMI, so the conversation got juicy. Something became very clear to me. If I know one thing about you, Superwomen, it's that you are smart, capable as fuck. You've done your work. Therapist, Dr. Google, podcasting, hours of reading books, doing whatever it takes. You take the action when you need to. You're not scared to do. You're not scared to move. But you are here listening to me because you want more, to be desired more, to be connected more, to enjoy having space and time. And this is exactly why traditional sex tips and sex therapy or therapy, couples therapy, doesn't often work for you. It misses the mark. It serves another purpose, but it's not why you're here. Every woman in the room last night, every woman that I work with that sends me a DM on Instagram is smart enough to Google where her G-spot is and how to give a blowjob. She's done her work. She's done her research, and something is still missing. She's not fulfilled. She's not as happy as she used to be. So I found it interesting. So we did a poll on my Instagram stories asking if you wanted tips for being in your feminine for better sex, or tips on how masculine and feminine, men and women, like those energies, how we misunderstand each other in relationship. And it was surprising to me that I think it was 60-40. 60% voted for the tips, 40% voted for the masculine and feminine dynamics. So, and most of those were the ladies that worked with me because I have drilled it into our heads, although our Superwomen brains want a box to check. We're like, just give me the steps. I'll take the action. I'll do what needs to get done. But it's usually not that simple. There's usually more work to be done. So we're going to get to some tips, but they're not the tips that you might think. They're not the step-by-step, here's your formula, look at your vulva in a mirror. They're not the shit that you can Google yourself online because you are smart and resourceful and would have done that already. It was reflected to me by several of the women joining the Feminine Mentorship for January 2023. So that's my women's network. It's 12 months long, absolutely amazing, transformational. Talk about that later. The women joining were all reflecting a similar message to me. And that is that my approach on sex, intimacy, connection really lands with them. It really resonates with them, because they find a lot of the teachings on femininity out there to be really esoteric, so out there that they can't even connect. Or when they're trying tips from online, maybe communication tips or how to give a blowjob tips, they bought the lingerie that has stayed in the closet and they haven't actually worn. They bought online courses that they didn't actually even complete. So these online tips can fall flat, or they can create even more distance in your relationship. If you're a superwoman, they can backfire. Hear those stories all the time, how well, I tried this, or I tried what the Instagram post said, and I tried to take penetration off the table, and it created more of a fight. It created more distance between my partner and I. So, Superwomen will not be doing pussy flashes at the moon. In a moment of desperation, they might have tried looking at their yoni in a mirror or purchased a jade egg, followed the steps that an Instagram guru told them online, and they're still unfulfilled. They're still watching a rom-com on Netflix alone on a Sunday night eating popcorn. That's a superwoman. There's something missing. Even if you're sitting across the couch from your partner, you're still feeling alone. You know me. As a naturopathic doctor with 2 degrees, I like to appeal to your educated, analytical mind. I want to combine the science, the Chinese medicine theory with desire, feminine energy, eros, worthiness, so that it sinks in. Because our beliefs, our mindset, our awareness of the problem already gets us 80% closer to the solution, to fixing it. If we can change our thoughts and beliefs, we can change our actions, change our situation, change our state of being. And how we do that for each superwoman can vary a little bit. But thank you for taking this time with me today. I know you are busy and have a few too many things on your to-do list today. You're probably thinking, I wish you would get to the tips already. But we're gonna slow burn this one, just like good sex. And remember, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So if you're already rushing and trying to get to the end, trying to get it over with, how is the sex you've been having, Superwoman? So I want you to know, I appreciate you. I appreciate your DMs. The feedback we got from episode 71, retiring your husband, being good for business and bad for relationships. The feedback was amazing. So if you have not listened to that one, I highly recommend you go back and take a listen. In that episode, we covered that the tools that we use to succeed in business and career are not the tools that you need to succeed in relationships or at sex. It's about understanding our full range of power as both masculine and feminine beings and cultivating each energy when we need it. So many of my clients, so many superwomen, I see in masculine overdrive, feminine burnout. Many women feel pressure to be and talk and act masculine in order to succeed in their careers. How many articles have we had about our posture, about taking exclamation marks out of our emails? Just so many things that take us out, condition us out of our feminine. And I work to help those women recognize and embrace their innate feminine energy. They may be CEOs in a world that requires masculine qualities, but they doesn't mean that they can't embrace and call on their feminine power when they need to, especially in relationship. A woman who can source her energy, her creative energy, and take excellent care of herself is more powerful than one that pushes so hard she exhausts herself and is anhedonic, where she cannot experience joy and pleasure. So we know how to succeed in our career. We figured that part out. We know how to succeed at supporting others, supporting a family, overgiving to everyone, overgiving, people pleasing. But I want to talk about succeeding at the sex part specifically. So this is how Superwoman sex goes. If you're having it, some of you are, and you're like, yeah, sex is pretty good. Others are not. They're in sexless relationships or partnerships. But one thing that I can guarantee, or that I say is quite likely, is that you are having checkbox sex. Just like we like to get to the tips, we like our to-do list. we're busy. We haven't given ourselves full permission to have pleasurable sex. In fact, we've never explored what that even is. And if your sex education was from school, was from friends, was from porn, that's what you're doing. Good sex requires three things. It requires presence. That means for all of us that in our head that we're thinkers, we're using our brains at work to solve problems. For our children, we're on all the time. So thinking those to-do lists in your head during sex, you're not present. We need to be in our bodies. Good sex requires connection. And how connected are you really? I hear it often, like my partner and I are great teammates, but we're not great lovers. And good sex requires pleasure. We've been conditioned as superwomen to work hard. And we have no idea the potential that our bodies, our lives have for receiving pleasure. Because we're too stuck doing, we're too stuck giving, we're too stuck over functioning. We don't stop, relax, open, receive. So Superwoman sex goes something like this. First, I finish the dishes and the laundry. Let's try and send that one last email. Then we cuddle. Then we make out. Then I go down on him. Then he goes down on me. Let's say we mix it up on position or location because we know that that's something that we should be doing. We've read Cosmo and we know that they like variety. We think about, is this feeling good for them? What do I have to do tomorrow? What's on my schedule? Are the kids going to hear us? And then one or both parties has an orgasm, and that is the end. You're in your head. You're struggling to stay present. You're worrying about how you look. You're worrying about getting your partner off. You're thinking of things that need to be done. So this is thinking, fear-based, not super connected sex. This is definitely not sex in the feminine. And a lot of superwomen will tell me, like, the sex was amazing at the beginning of the relationship and it petered off. If you've read my book, The Pink Canary, we know that there are a lot of neurochemical reasons for that. That new relationship energy, the norepinephrine, the dopamine. It's just like you can't get enough of that person, which is natural, and that does fade over time to more connection hormones. Read The Pink Canary for more detail on that. But a part of the reason why libido fades, connection fades, our inability to be present fades is because our nervous systems aren't regulated. We can't be present and we do not experience pleasure. So even if you are connected with your partner, but you're still kind of scoring a 2 out of 3 or struggling in 2 of the 3 areas, the sex is not going to be amazing. So even if clients tell me, I'm a total superwoman, I check off all the boxes, everything that you talk about, but the sex that I have is good. Like, they don't think there's anything wrong with it. But they start working with me because of all of the other issues, the overgiving, the people pleasing, the feminine burnout. They're just like exhausted and unfulfilled. They start working with me, and then I start to get the messages. After a workshop, I'll get a message the next day. That was the best sex of my life. Then 3 weeks later, I know I already said this, but I just had the best sex of my life. So by learning to drop in, to be in relationship with our feminine energy, learning to be present, regulate our nervous systems, to receive pleasure, which is an ultimate feminine attribute, receiving. Feminine sex is completely different. And yes, that animalistic, tear each other's clothes off sex is amazing too, or that checkbox sex serves its purpose as well. But the sex that I find superwomen are desiring and not having is sex from their feminine, sex in touch with their feminine energy. So this is why I'm giving you all this backstory. We're almost at the tip. So the tips. The feminine doesn't care for an end result, or she's not after a goal. So she's not trying to get to orgasm. It's about, what am I feeling now? What is my present desire in this moment and in the next moment and the moment after that? And it will change and flow, and your sexual experience will build around that. A feminine sexual experience, and this can be with yourself or with a partner, you have to be capable of existing in your body. And as superwomen, we exist so much in our heads. We have to be capable of receiving pleasure, allowing ourselves to feel good, and expanding that feeling of feeling good. Because most of you are anhedonic, medical term, inability to feel pleasure or joy. So the difference between the checkbox sex, masculine sex, is something like, yeah, this feels good. I think I can come if we go a little faster. Or this doesn't feel that great, but I think he'll be done soon. Versus, that feels good. I want to sink more into that. I want to explore more of that. That feels even better. Or that was triggering and brought up trauma and I need to stop. But we're in touch with feeling, we're in our body, we're in touch with sensation. So sacred feminine energy is soft, it's nurturing, it's flowing, it's grounded and trusting of your intuition, trusting that your intuition will lead you to a better sexual experience than if we're doing what we think we should be doing based on how we've seen it on porn and TV. And a lot of us, we've turned off our feminine intuition. We've been taught not to listen to it. We've been taught to use reason and logic instead. And so when we combine that sacred feminine energy with sacred masculine energy, which is present, logical, focused, and with a desire to protect, provide, build, these two energies can work together within us and within a union that allows us to embrace the connection, the intimacy that we truly desire. So I wanted to be clear on that before we get into the tips, because we have to look at, what do you really want? What are you really seeking? If you read tips online, well, here's a communication formula, here's steps for this, and you try it and it doesn't shift anything, it doesn't get you closer to that fullness, that more that you desire, we're probably trying to solve the wrong problem. So tips for getting into your feminine for better sex, so that you can start implementing today, because I know you still like your tips, but your tips are going to be about taking action, ladies, and taking consistent action, because pleasure is a muscle. We don't go to the gym once and expect it to work. Tip number 1, morning ritual. How do we cultivate a morning ritual to engage with our intuition? Because, like I told you, we need to be in touch with our intuition if we are going to have great sex in the feminine. So connecting, whatever this morning ritual means to you, keep it simple and allow it to unfold naturally over time. A key element is the ability to be receptive. So intuition, receptivity, things that I've already talked about. So see how we needed to understand the background to get here. So for example, morning routine. Take a moment in the morning to ground and connect to yourself, entering that receptive state where you can listen to your heart. You can listen to your pussy. We call it the pink canary in the Pleasure Collective. So that's like our feminine intuition. So if we can start our day with this time We can engage with what we desire, what's in our highest alignment for that day, what it looks like for me. I have an hour blocked off in my calendar in the morning. I have worked up to having this much space, so don't think that it needs to be that. This could be 10 minutes in the morning before everyone else gets up, setting your alarm 10 minutes earlier, and taking the time to connect with yourself. And I'm going to give you a journal prompt that you might be able to use at this time. It could be taking your time making a tea or a coffee, going out in nature. Canadians, it's getting pretty darn cold. I usually like to take this time outside, but a lot of this will mean I will be inside by the fire looking outside at nature in my backyard. But just taking time in silence and stillness to connect to yourself. And this is important because we are connecting to our intuition. And it's important because we are creating a ritual of space that we are showing up for ourselves to do that. Step number 2, tips for being in our feminine. Have a self-pleasure practice. If you are not self-pleasuring, you're missing out on a massive part of your sexuality, your sexual health, your ability to connect and be present. And this is a great place to practice increasing the pleasure that you can tolerate, because we are people pleasers, superwomen. So if there is someone else in this sexual equation, it is harder for us to be present. We're going to be focusing on them. And I hear all the excuses, the shame, or, oh, I don't need to masturbate, I have a partner. That's all bullshit. If we don't know, by listening to my work from before, I'm a massive, massive proponent for self-pleasure for many reasons. And self-pleasure is something that we teach in pleasure principles. It's a guided framework for how to approach it, try new things, because I know there is a lot of shame around there. Tip number 3, let go of the shoulds. How it should go, what should happen next, what you think your partner should want, instead of being in our own body, listening to our intuition, moving from intuition, feeling from intuition, and being present with those sensations. Tip number 5, this is a journal prompt. You could use this as part of your morning ritual. You could get a pen out and do it right now. What is my relationship to pleasure? How good am I willing to let myself feel? What is one thing I will do for my pleasure today? Maybe set a reminder for yourself in your phone every morning and start the morning checking in and answering those questions. Number 5, space, another feminine characteristic. And I bet many of you are craving space and you don't even know it, or craving time and space where you wish there was more time, or we usually say that it's time, but really what it is space to be with ourselves, space to be relaxing with our own intuition and thoughts. So tip number 5 is cultivate a sacred space. Find a place in your home where you can set it could be a corner, you could have a blanket, you could have a meditation pillow, a candle, a crystal, flower, something super, super simple that when you walk over to that space, it immediately grounds you. So having a feminine space in your home, even if it's a little corner, even if I know some of the ladies in the feminine mentorship, they have their blankets and crystals and things in a box, and then they can pull it out for their calls, or they can pull it out for their morning ritual, and then they can just fold it and tuck it away. So it doesn't need to be anything fancy, but just something that when you come to that area, if you need to relax your nervous system throughout the day, if you want to go there as part of your morning ritual, that it feels good. You can land, you can feel your nervous system relaxing there. So that is a lot. And they're all quite simple. maybe not the self-pleasure one if you've got a lot of sex hangups, but I'm here to help if you do. But these tips about being in our feminine, this is where we need to take consistent action. So over time, you're going to see improvements if you're taking consistent action on the small things. If you're a superwoman, you want it done now. You want it done yesterday, and you probably tolerated shit for so long, you are ready for change. So this work is, like I said, it's like going to the gym. Pleasure is a muscle we need to build. And a lot of us need accountability. We can't do it on our own. We don't show up for ourselves on our own without accountability because we are superwomen. And for those of you that feel called to do this work in community, I have opened 3 more spots for the Feminine Mentorship 2023. This has been invite only, but I was on the phone last week with someone and she was exactly who needed to be in the mentorship. And I'd never met her before, so I never wouldn't have thought to invite her. And it got me thinking, if you know that my podcast speaks to you, my work speaks to you, and you know that you're called, you know that you need to be in the room with us for the Feminine Mentorship 2023, fill out the application, send me a DM on Instagram. I would love to connect with you and have you join us, Superwoman. Have a great week, everybody.
If you like what you heard in this episode, leave me a rating. Your support helps me get discovered by more women like you. Together, we can change the conversation around women's sexual health and pleasure for you, your partners, and generations to come.